there's just not a lot of talk about sheep dairy. I mean, most people in my area don't even know that sheep dairy exists. They're like, "You milk a sheep? Are you kidding me?" It's kind of unfathomable, and it's so far fetched. But and it was for me. I mean, I would have never guessed that in a million years. Um, and so largely, just people don't know about it. But if you do the research, if you look it up and see and learn about it, there actually is information out there. It's not a lot, but I think because sheep dairy is more prevalent in like Europe and you know other countries in that region. So, but in America here, it's not prevalent at all. I think it's coming back, but it's not back. Um, so, anyways, so these charts, back to that, kind of give a little bit of an insight on the nutritional value of sheep's milk. So, not just for those who are sensitive to cow dairy or goat dairy, now can maybe have dairy. I'm not saying that everyone who is allergic to those dairies can have sheep's milk. I don't know for sure, but for me, that's certainly true, and I know of others that that's true. But not only can now you consume something that tastes good and doesn't make you feel sick, also you get an incredible amount of nutrition from the sheep's milk. So, like for example, here on this particular chart, this is like a common chart when you look up like the differences between the milk that you can find on Google. But with 1 cup of milk, for example, so 1 cup of cow's milk, protein in that is 8 grams. In 1 cup of sheep's milk, 15 grams. So that's almost double the amount of protein in 1 cup. I mean, that's amazing. Um, and then goat's milk is 9 grams of protein according to this chart. So I want to make that clear. According to this chart, I do believe that inputs, what you feed your animals, how you care for them, that's going to affect probably how much protein and nutrition is packed into the milk. But in general, you find this pretty regular across the board on charts and articles and stuff, that sheep's milk has almost double the amount of protein in 1 cup or one equal measurement as cow and goat. Um, and then as far as carbohydrates, 1 cup of milk, cow is 11 grams, sheep 13 grams, goat 11 grams. So not a huge difference there, but sheep's milk is still on top. And then fat, this is really amazing. Fat in cow's milk, you get 8 grams in 1 cup. Sheep's milk, you get 17 grams in 1 cup. And then goats, you get 10 grams. I mean, that is over double of what cow's milk has in 1 cup. So that's just impressive to me. And not only that, what I've read is that the fats in sheep and goat's milk even are healthier. Now that's something you can look up and research. I don't want to get into that because I haven't really dug into that particular topic. But as I've done research, that's one of the things that I've noticed in some things I've read. So, and things like vitamins, vitamin C, it's much higher. I'm not going to go into all the numbers on all this. Vitamin B12, sheep's milk is on top. Folate, sheep's milk is way on top, according to this chart. Again, calcium is double the calcium in sheep's milk than cow's milk, and then it blows goat's milk out of the water as well. And then magnesium, it beats it in that. Other vitamins, and in different charts you'll see slightly different numbers and things like that. So, but in general, across the board, in protein and in carbs and in fat and in even vitamin C and calcium, those sheep's milk is I've not seen a chart where it's not on top. So pretty impressive for a little animal to produce that nutritious of a product that we can consume, and especially us who are lactose intolerant or have an allergy, whatever you want to define it as, from cow's milk. So just amazing. And this got me more excited about sheep's milk, and so I started um, uh, making products, cheese, butter, yogurt, more like experimenting, still learning too as we speak. But because I was just like, this is incredible. Um, I should be consuming this not just because I can consume it and digest it and enjoy it, but because it's nutritious. And so I just really wanted to share that with you guys. And in this whole experience with being a shepherd, raising sheep, milking sheep, spending time with sheep, consuming the dairy, learning about the wool, shearing, and finding out amazing things about wool that we can talk about on a different episode or whatever. uh, just got me really excited. And so I started what's called Sheep Talk. And I even have a coffee mug with the logo Sheep's Talk and hats and things like that. That's a whole nother conversation about what I'm trying to do there. But I just really am excited about what sheep produce and the farming aspect of it. I'm not an expert, I'm just learning this stuff, talking about it, and want to get it out there. There's not a lot of YouTube information on sheep dairy. There are some videos, and I've probably watched all of them, and I'm grateful for those people who are doing that. But there's not a lot that's on a bigger scale. And not that it's about making it on a bigger scale, but if it really is that nutritious and people could benefit from it that are taking Lactaid pills and trying to consume cow dairy, maybe they don't have to buy all that Lactaid and they can access sheep's dairy and, not just have it and consume it, enjoy it, but benefit from it. And so that's really why I want to talk about it. And this whole movement or whatever you want to call it is called Sheep Talk, because I think there's value there that people can really be blessed by and benefit from. And there's so much more to talk about, but I just really wanted to get on here and kind of give an introduction, as to why I got into sheep, and just kind of highlight some of the nutritional facts, not just that people who are allergic to some degree to cow dairy or even goat dairy can maybe have sheep's milk like me, but also the nutritional benefits. And, hopefully we'll be talking about the wool and some of the benefits. I mean, many benefits that are potentially there. And so one of the interesting things that really strikes me is that if this research is out there, if there is some information, why is it that more people don't know about it? I mean, that's a question, maybe some of you will have an answer to, or a theory on, or I've always found that fascinating. Like there's so much, I think, benefit here, nutritionally speaking. And why is it not known about? Why is it not talked about? Why haven't people given more voice to it? Maybe it's a newer thing in terms of people discovering the nutritional value of it. I don't know. I don't really have an answer. I'm speculating, but I just find it fascinating that not more people know about it. So I have theories on that. Don't really want to get into that right now, but maybe for a later episode we can talk about some theories of why, sheep have not been as talked about in terms of what they produce, and the benefits therein. So, anyways, we'll stop there. We'll talk about that later, or leave comments in the down below and let me know what you think about that. But anyways, also just a few more things. One of the challenges certainly is, because I got another little chart here, is access, right? So sheep's milk is not nearly as accessible in terms of it's not in the stores. You find goat's milk in some of the stores. Obviously, cow's milk is everywhere. And this is not a burner on cow's milk. If I could consume cow's milk, I'd be drinking it now, and I would never even know about sheep's milk. But perhaps that's why I know about sheep's milk. It's because I was supposed to. So, anyways, but it's just not as accessible. You can't find in my area. You can't find sheep's milk anywhere. It doesn't exist. You could find yogurt in some of the specialty stores and maybe a cheese here and there, but that's it. No milk. No retail store carries it around here. Um, you can't even go on Craigslist or Marketplace or wherever, and any of those Facebook groups. Or you can't find any sheep dairy for sale in my area. So it's very hard to access. And my hope is that more people that are capable will, take an interest and look into it and see what they can find, and see if it particularly for those who are lactose intolerant, but to see if that can be a thing they can consume. But anyways, so it's hard to access. Obviously the other two are more easily accessed, but also one of the things about the digestion aspect of sheep's milk. So not just like the lactose issue, because that's another story. Like sheep's milk actually typically has more lactose. So a lot of people who think they're lactose intolerant may not actually be lactose intolerant. They may have an allergy to the protein, or even just some of the makeup of the milk is not as digestible for some people. But one of the interesting things is that the fat globules in cow's milk are larger, and so they're harder for our gut to digest. And that's perhaps why some people have, issues with it. Not just the lactose or not just the casein protein, but maybe that could be another reason why people struggle with digesting cow's milk who do. And goat and sheep's milk actually has the small fat globules, or however you say it, globules, I think it's called. And so it's easier to digest on the gut. And certainly, I can attest to that for sure. In terms of digestive function improvements with sheep dairy. I know some people have other issues with dairy, but for me, it's been a positive thing. Anyways, cow's milk, highly inflammatory A1 casein, according to this chart, and I don't know if this person has a bias toward sheep and goat. But I'm just reading this, and I've heard other articles talk about these kinds of things. So, has A1 casein. A lot of cow's milk has A1 casein. Obviously, there's A2 cow's milk too, and that people find that they can drink that, and it turns out better for them. But the sheep's milk and goat's milk even have less inflammatory A2 casein. So it'd be interesting to find out, like cow's milk that's A2 casein, if that's less inflammatory, or if the A2 casein in sheep and goat's milk is even different than the A2 in cow's milk. Just kind of thinking out loud here, wondering. But anyways, that's a kind of an interesting thing to note. Obviously, cow's milk is lower in fat, but goat and sheep's milk, it's higher in fat, but it's healthier kinds of fat. So that was a thing that was really interesting looking into. Calcium, sheep's milk's on top. B12, folate, magnesium. Sheep's milk is really good for. And then the taste. All right, the taste. Perhaps the biggest thing, because people who drink cow's milk, love the flavor. That love it, enjoy it, love the flavor, and they say, "Oh man, I've had goat's milk, or I've heard about it, and it's really gamey and nasty and goaty." And I don't really know. I've only had goat's milk like once, and I didn't have a good experience. My stomach was not having it. But sheep's milk, for people that I've let taste my sheep's milk, that drink cow's milk on a regular basis, they said that the sheep's milk tastes pretty much identical to cow's milk, maybe a little creamier and sweeter. Because actually sheep's milk is around 6% butter fat. So you're getting a lot more cream in there. And the cream takes longer to separate as well in sheep's milk. And so it's actually higher in the butterfat content area. And so, yeah, so sweeter, creamier, but very similar to cow's milk. I don't think you can go wrong with sweeter or creamier. However, I will say that a lot of people think, oh, sheep, oh, it must be like goat. It must be gamey. It must be nasty. And they're just like, I don't even want to try it. But it's actually really good, in my opinion. I will say that sometimes, if you don't cool the milk down quickly, if you don't, you can kind of, and sometimes it can be a little bit sheepy, you could call it, or have some of that little bit of a stronger flavor. But most of the time, it has that creamier, sweet flavor. It makes for a amazing, just straight up poured in your coffee in the morning, and it's like you don't need to add anything else. It's pretty awesome. I actually miss it right now because my sheep haven't had lambs yet, and so I haven't had sheep's milk for a while. I've been eating yogurt and stuff, but it's really good. And so anyways, taste wise, you can actually go on YouTube here and check out people that taste like sheep's milk versus goat's milk or cow's milk, and see what they say about it. I've watched a lot of them, and a lot of people seem to go with the sheep's milk. It seems like, if I remember correctly, or at least didn't have anything really bad to say about it. So that's a plus as well. So you've got good flavor, you've got great nutrition, you've got tolerance where there's intolerance. I'm not saying for everybody, but at least for me and others that I've known can tolerate it better or completely fine. So it's kind of a winning situation here. And I want to talk more about it. I want to talk to people that know about it, have experienced it, and get their opinion. And I'll have another chair here next to me at some point in time where other people can come in and we can chat about sheep and all the wonderful things about sheep and the challenges, and not just the good stuff but the challenging stuff and whatnot, and other guests as well. Again, I want to go back to just reminding you folks that we're going to be talking about faith on here, testimonies, stories, theology, things that are going on in the world. How do we think about them? I've got wonderful friends who I think have some things to share that would be hopefully a blessing and a benefit to anyone who listens. But tonight, it's just a kind of a rambling on about my passion that has developed for sheep, and particularly in the dairy realm. And I hope to actually do a lot of testing. I've been doing testing over the last couple of years with the sheep, like making products, even making like soap and things like that. And I would love to talk more about that. Maybe on the next episode, I'll talk about, some of these milk soaps and the difference between, kind of conventional, typical soaps that we buy in the store versus some of the milk soap and some of the benefits that, people are reporting and charts and things like that you can find. And it's just amazing. So I've been testing all kinds of things. I also have my main channel it's called Sheep Talk TV. And right now it's just little short videos of the sheep, running around, my sheep running around, and, just silly little things, cute things. But eventually I want to start, like, when the lambs come this spring, I want to start talking about and showing, on that channel, like milking them and caring for them and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of make that a vlogging kind of a channel. But so if you want to, you can go over to Sheep Talk TV and subscribe, and that would be amazing. And follow along over there for more content in the future. And back to the sheep thing here. Um, One of the things that I'm so grateful for is just the opportunity to continue to learn and grow, um, with regards to farming, with regard to faith, and with regard to family. Learning how to navigate those areas of life, and particularly for the glory of God. I want to talk about that a little bit, because that's important to me. And you know, the end all be all isn't sheep. The end all be all isn't farming. Um, the end all be all isn't even family. Um, but it is faith. It is, and so I'm so grateful that I get this podcast and I get the opportunity to share about all these things, and particularly faith. And again, we'll talk more about all that uh, and in the future. So at this point, I'm just rambling on. This is my first episode and or podcast, I guess you could call it, even though there's no one talking to me here, but I'm talking to you guys. So, anyways, I hope you all are having a good evening, good morning, good day, whatever it is, and leave questions, comments, insights, corrections in the comments. I'm totally up for it. I know, people have different opinions, perspectives. Maybe something I said was conflicting. Maybe it was slightly off. Maybe it was not fully communicated, so you could add to. Anyways, whatever you feel you'd like to add down below, that'd be great. And we're going to talk more about all this stuff. And I just decided, hey, I'm going to get on here and just go for it. So that's what we did. And yeah, if you get a chance, do some research on your own. Share your thoughts in the comments, like I said. Maybe even find a local farm around you that sells sheep's milk, or, try some of the yogurt or cheese if you can find it in the store, and let me know what you think about it. Or let me know what you think about the wool clothing that you have and wear, and anything else about sheep or faith or family. But all right, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.